How you doing? This is another edition of Chris's Comments discussion show. Common ground on common sense, no matter what the subject. I'm going to skip the long intro again for this one and get straight to it. Ercot, Electrical Reliability Council of Texas. This company needs to either be regulated or it needs to just be facing shutdown removal altogether for the mess up that it did during the winter crisis that we just went through here in the second to last week of February. Texas, just to recap, Texas went through a snowstorm and it shut down all our power. We had rolling blackouts going on almost the entire week, and it was detrimental to a lot of people, particularly those that needed the electricity to power up their medical supplies, whether it be breathalyzers, stuff to keep their heart rates going. My own father has one of those breathing machines that he attaches to himself when he goes to bed at night so that way he can keep breathing while he sleeps. You know, the electrical power outages did not help him. And it did not help anybody else that would be on defibrillators or anything else like that. Now, to share a little bit of fact, a lot of the power was saved in our medical center area or around all the hospitals. Power was still there. The rest of us had rolling power outages we had to go through. In accordance to our city, they purposefully did that to keep from power being sent through frozen lines and forcing shutdowns, forcing breakdowns, to set the power on for about 3 to 5 hours, then shut it off for 10 to 12 while sending power to an entirely different neighborhood, and then doing the exact same thing over there as they did over here to us on our side of the town. Apparently that was preventing a disaster. Okay. That was preventing a huge, that was preventing things from going from bad to worse had they just left everything on as they tried to channel the power constantly throughout the entire city. Okay, that's the city's testimonial, the energy testimonial on their part as to why Ercot sucked so bad. Now, why Ercot sucked so bad is because of a very ugly reality, and this is something that a lot of the conspiracy theorists and rhetoric people on both sides of the spectrum are going to be throwing out a bunch of bullcrap. Here's the ugly truth of it all. Okay, here's the ugly truth. Ercot was not regulated, as is most of the companies down here in Texas are. They're usually not regulated at all. There's no union. There's some that do follow a union. The railroad has a union. The electrical field that I used to work in has a union. But not all companies join. There's only a certain amount of companies that join the union. And there's only almost none of these businesses are regulated. You know, they follow the law, but they're not really regulated. They're not really forced to deal, in this case, with all purposes, all weather purposes. You know, especially like here in San Antonio, for example, it's mostly hot down here and humid. San Antonio is at the end of a long valley that stretches all the way down to the Gulf. So whatever the Gulf has to offer, you know, salt, humidity, pollens, what do you call them? Allergens. We get all of that stuff that the Gulf has to offer, and then to top it all off, we're just before the hill country. you know. So we get blocked off. We usually get the winter blocked off from us, for us. You go up to the hill country, you'll see snow. You go out to East Texas, you could see snow. You go over to the West Texas, you can see snow. You come here to Central Texas, and it's a long shot. So usually, normally, we don't really think that there's a need for it. But Ercot isn't something normal. Ercot is a power supply company. Ercot should have been regulated. They should have been prepared. They should have had everything set for these weathers, extreme weathers in particular. They should have had everything ready. And when you don't have them for that, when you don't have that additive protection, you know you're coming up to worse situations. Take the electricity, the electrical field. I used to study for it, and there were still some old 100-year-old houses that had the old system of bare copper going underneath their houses and then up the walls to where the outlet was connected. Bare copper coming out of the main up under their houses and into the walls, inside the walls, susceptible to fires, shortages, outages, surges, and little mini arcs. Nothing to lead into an arc blast, obviously, because an outlet is not a power generator. However, you could still get shocked and, if not fully electrocuted, once the non-protected copper has weathered down a little bit. You could still go through some serious problems. It's supposed to be an old humorous joke about how when we were younger, we used to live where we would have any old light bulb that we could put into the lamp, just tighten it up there, and then turn it on, and it'd be this illuminating light, radiant light that looks like some kind of radiation room. Flying into the walls, blinded by the bulb. And it's funny, but there's certain times in the past where it was true. You had blinding lights with whatever bulbs, and it was all coming out of these raw provided electrical power lines, power source. And now here we are with Ercot. Many, many years have gone by, and we're supposed to be safe enough and secure enough to be able to handle whatever problem comes our way. And that's just not what happened. We've got deregulated companies going through Ercot that wasn't prepared for this. They didn't spend the money on this, and that's another ugly reality. That's another level to this ugly reality. They weren't spending the proper money to withstand the weathers, no matter what the extremity that weather was. And this is what happened. We had these rolling blackouts and some very serious concerns that came with it, particularly medically, for people that needed electricity to keep them from either getting worse of whatever condition they had, if not actually losing their lives. You see the seriousness of this. For right now, Ercot is saying everything's restored back to normal. We're good. Well, we've got our power back, but it's not necessarily back to normal, much less is it we're good. That's just BS right there. This company has to have a comeuppance. It has to face a comeuppance. And in this little one San Antonio guy's individual opinion, they either need to go face regulations, they need to be regulated by our state, if not by the government itself, to do this properly, rework everything that they've done, and correct it accordingly, regardless of the cost. I understand it's expensive, whatever the hell. But electric power has been charging us up the yin yang all the time. As sure as they've got guys adjusting the meters seasonally. They can handle this. They can handle this. It's we, the regular people, that can't. And if they can't face that, then there has to be some kind of serious uprising. I'm not saying go out and attack, but at the same time, I can't say that that's not the solution. Proper channels is what I'm more or less thinking of. Go through the proper channels to get them shut down, if not removed. And I know that makes sense to many people who might be watching this outside of Texas. It is a downheartening way of thinking for me. Me being a San Antonio Texan, I love my state, and I love the fact that we had our own power supply, our own power source. And then to top it all off, we were actually moving into the green energy segment of it here in Texas. The windmill power alone, it went up to 7% to 17 to 40% feeding into the nation power. And despite the fact that this deregulated company here was giving us 90%, we were only taking 10% of the wind power energy. Texas was only taking 10%, and that's also an ugly truth that needs to be brought up to Ercot. Guys, you had your way building, construction, giving nothing but total access to the electrical industry. Okay, you were deregulated. You set up everything to be set up the way you felt was the best way to do it, and that it would be okay. It would be all right. It'd be all right. Like that drunk uncle. I'm all right. It's all right. It's all right. And it's spread down to those of people that jump in my ride, because I'm a rideshare driver. I jump in my ride and tell me this kind of crap, that everything's okay, and that, anything else is bull crap, or just the ruining of the country, no differently than those that want abortion rights and want to be a men that want to butt hump another man and take it in the keister and all this good stuff. You're all ruining the country, especially when it comes to regulation. Those people, they literally have this kind of train of thought, and they're hopping in my ride telling me this kind of stuff, trying to feed me this kind of information, which we all know is not only bullcrap, but through instances like this, it's being proven more and more to be nothing but bullcrap. Ercot, I'm sure they had a lot of fun, but now it's time to get serious. It's time for them to go face regulations. It's time for them to winterize our electrical grid no differently than they did powering for extreme heats, getting everything set for extreme heat. You protected our lines through intense heat, humidity, dry heat, storms, hurricanes. We get them. We get the failed end of the hurricanes down here in San Antonio. It doesn't do much damage to us. We also have a lot of creeks, dry creeks. We have one seriously large creek called Leon Creek, which is about 3 to 5 stories down. In certain parts, it drops pretty low. And so flood waters and all that stuff, it'd be a freak of nature if it actually happens around here. We usually have our creeks filtering out flood waters. You know, we have we're pretty well done over here, but we've got all types of weather no differently. We just usually don't get them in the extremes that other parts of Texas and other parts of the nation do. Until now. Until recently, until this, I guess the second millennia, you know, we'd have 100-year distances of this freaky nature. Excuse my language. We'd have about 100 years distance between freak nature, natural occurrences. So throughout this time, we've got this company that we seriously trusted. It made us our own state's electrical source, which was just the coolest. And you know, it was also a relief to the rest of the nation, us having our own power source. Because there's about 3 others, but they're all West Coast or they're all East Coast. A whole crap load of states on a certain electrical power grid. Or they're all Midwest, you know. But Texas has its own thing. And of course it just, you know, it just feels good. But then this thing happened. And this huge failure happened. And so now it's time for them to face the music. We've got to have, any of us here in San Antonio, any of us here in Texas, we got to make some calls and some notifications and make a demand on this company to face the music, to either fix the problem, and no BS shortcutting or anything like that. Fix the problem either through regulation, where the government has to look over. They have to have a government man looking over their shoulders because they're being too lazy bitches or whatever. They're cutting corners. Sorry about the language. They're cutting corners. Or we just need to find another company to take over. Shut this one down. You know, let's start another transition. It sounds messed up and it sounds virtually impossible. I guess time will tell. We'll find out how deep they've got their claws into our lands, if that is the case. But we're going to find out, and hopefully everything will turn out for the better. I strongly recommend, and especially if you're watching this, if you got any numbers, websites, districts to inform everybody, throw it on here, throw it on my channel in the comment section. I'm actually going to be going blind in this. I've usually never really focused too much on it. There's a reason why when I talk about politics and social issues, I'm talking about it from a narrative point of view. That's because I'm not an expert. So, that's pretty much the concept right now. That's me venting out what I had to say, and this one viewpoint of this one little lowly little citizen point of view that's going on. You got a lot of commenters over on the West Coast, commenters on the East Coast, commenters up north, and very little coming down here in the South. So that's this perspective, this one little man's perspective, one lowly worker, one lowly guy's perspective on it, and hope the information is good for you, and I hope you keep launching information yourselves and keep finding it. Don't stop talking. Don't stop talking. Please keep on telling how it is. This is Chris's comments. I'm done venting. I got another subject to tackle, but for right now, for this segment, I'm done. Y'all have a good one. Chris from Chris's comments, out.